Hello, everybody. And I'd like to say welcome, but it's more like welcome back. Because I think I know everybody in the room at this point. All close anyway. Thank you all for joining us today for Voices of Diversity. I'm Paul. I'm the library director here at Brockton Public Library. And this event, I was trying to think this morning how long we've been doing this. My guess is we've been doing it since 2018. Which would make it, 7 years? That's incredible.
6 years.
6 years.
Because we skipped one through the pandemic.
That's right, thank you. 6 years. So we've had 6 of these. And they're always wonderful. It's always wonderful to hear you people read your poetry. I do have to make a run up to Jordan, so we have to skip out for a little bit, but I'll come back. And I also know that you have citations for the mayor's office made up for you guys. And I would like to read the citation to you. All the citations say the same thing. Be it known that the mayor of Brockton hereby extends his congratulations to, insert your name here, in recognition of your participation in the 2025 Voices of Diversity, Voices of America event at the Brockton Public Library. The city of Brockton extends its deepest gratitude to you for leading your voice, lending your voice, to celebrate our city's diversity. So that's what it says. Thank you, James. So without further ado, let's kick this program off. Philip, who's our first in the order of go? So come on over.
I'm going to qualify. I'm not feeling myself, so I'm doing the best I can. So welcome to our 6th Voices of Diversity Poetry Series, and thank you to Paul Engel for allowing us the space, and our former poet laureate, Philip Pesoris, for continuing to carry the legacy. So I'm first going to read about a Cape Verdean poet. In Cape Cod, in the 1800s, Cape Verdeans came to Massachusetts, to the Cape, because of the whaling ships and the cranberry bogs. And then later they came to Brockton for the factories. And now there are more Cape Verdeans in Brockton than there are in Cape Verde proper. And they make up politicians and entrepreneurs and educators and everyday people. So my poem is to honor that. And this poem is called, in English it's Bridge of Collective Life. A ponte de amor colectivo, todos aqui a mim voar colectivo. O astro com seus pies cintilantes, o mar como seu carnaval de ondas. O oros das flores com estras de cores, própria verdade na essência, como artificianos a todos a muitos criados. Todos um amor coletivo, entregando vivo de esperas por entre todo aqui, alma esperida, a que defraga a minha última expectativa. E por isso que es amo em mim mesma, por ser uma coletiva, a sensibilidade massiva impressa nas fibras de eu. E meu acordar na tenvinitas, por construir no sorteio a mesma voz para coletivo. Quando e para uma só cruz, firmeza entre as criadas circunstâncias contra amontoros de mesmo. A criança humana, amor colectivo. And in English it says, the bridge of collective love. Everything I love was collective. The stars and the shimmering fish, the sea with its carnival of waves, the scent of flowers with the ecstasy of color, truth itself in essence with artifice and all the creative mix. Everything a collective love. Meanwhile, it was scattered among everything I love through the mirror of life, until my last expectation ignites. That's when I love myself. because I'm a collective and I have massive sensitivity imprinted on the fibers of myself. My anchor has no limit, but was built on the underground of my voice for the collective. When I am one thing, uniformed, then I will be silent about circumstances. I will continue loving everything immeasurably, and I will create an integral of any collective love. That poem actually was written by a co-teacher of mine, Sally Duarte, and I translated it for her into English. So up next, representing the Haitian Creole, is Jean-Denis Washington.
Merci un pile. Merci un pile. Thank you very much. It's such an honor again to be here for this celebration that is an annual festivity of languages. And I'm honored that the language of the people of Haiti is represented in such wonderful event. The first poem I read for you, it's not mine. It's one of the poets I met when I was a child in Haiti. And this poem is about one of the founders of the country, Jean-Jacques Dessalines. He is celebrated usually in the month of October. So since yesterday was October still, I think it is proper that I do a little something about Jean-Jacques Dessalines. And the poet is Evans Paul, and his writing name is K-Plim, Compare Plim, Compare Plume, from that. Okay. And here goes the poem to honor Jean-Jacques Dessalines in Haitian Creole. À la mauvais yo mauvais, à la méchant yo méchant. À la mauvais yo mauvais, à la méchant yo méchant. Depuis 1804, y a pu monter complot. Depuis 1804, y a monté barricade. À la mauvais yo mauvais, à la méchant yo méchant. Yo touye Dessalines, chef la crête à pied haut. Yo touye Dessalines, chef la guerre à la liberté. À la mauvais, yo mauvais. À la méchant, yo méchant. Yo fait 17 octobre pour yo prendre tout pour yo. Yo fait 17 octobre pour yo voler toute terre. Yo fait 17 octobre pour craser paysans. Yo fait 17 octobre pour voler bien l'État. Yo fait 17 octobre pour yo faire contrebande. À la mauvais, yo mauvais. À la méchant, yo méchant. Yo assassiné l'emprunt pour soldats toujours pauvres. Yo assassiné l'emprunt pour familles par l'école. Yo assassiné l'emprunt pour seul homme patrité. Yo assassiné l'emprunt pour yo seul coq chanter. Yo assassiné l'emprunt pour yo vendre pays. À la mauvais, yo mauvais. À la mauvais, yo mauvais. À la méchant, yo méchant. This poem was a cry about doing bad things about the country. It spoke about the fact that this person, Jean Dessalines, was assassinated. And the poem explained why this happened. It's because they wanted to take everything for themselves, because they wanted to sell the country, because they wanted the poor to remain poor, and because more division they wanted to see there. So the poet is K-Plim, and that was to honor Jean-Jacques Dessalines, one of the founders, the first one of Haitian freedom and liberty. And I'll read you a poem of mine in Haitian Creole. That's called Souvenir d'enfance, and there will be a translation in English. Souvenir d'enfance. Moi songe fenêtre, moi songe brille la pluie sous le tôle, ti rideau tout fin dans papote, ti moun piti k'ap leve yon apre l'autre, qui pa k'attend pour commencer jouer. Moi songe brimachan k'ap passe, zabokami, belle fig mi, di suite gros mythe. Moi songe 8h du matin, de la peau k'ap monte, ti moun sou l'école. Moi songe un petit calme dans la vie, les monte ti moun a grandi. La vie a été semblée pas bien bout. Mais pour qui? Pour qui pièce moun pas dim? C'est ça qui paradis. Mais pour qui pas pièce moun pas dim? C'est ça qui paradis. And now the English translation. I remember the windows. I remember the sound of rain on the thin roof, the thin little curtain by the door, the children waking up one by one, too eager to wait for morning gains. I remember the voices of vendors passing by. Avokami, belle fig mi, biscuit gros meat, ripe avocados, sweet bananas, crunchy biscuit. I remember 8 in the morning, the rising of the flag, children on their way to school. I remember a small piece of my life when I was a child growing up. When life seemed to have no end. And I wonder, why did no one tell me that was paradise? Why did no one tell me that was paradise? Thank you very much. Thank you.
And up next, representing the Cantonese voice, Christina Leon.
Thank you all very much for being here. I think we're starting a new pattern here. So much of the poetry that I'll be reading today is not from me, but inspired by modern Asian Canadian, Asian American poets. But I'm actually going to start with a very different poet, much older poet, Li Po, who, according to the poetryfoundation.org, left home in the year 725 to wander through the Yangtze River Valley and wrote poetry. So, not me, but Li Po. And I'm going to be reading his poem first in Cantonese and then in English. 我一個人飲酒同月亮，我同啲花飲杯水。冇人喺度，我自己飲。我開個杯，話月亮好乾，咁我見我心飲，3個人一齊做朋友。個月亮真係唔明白我啊！我心飲呢，跟住我，但係又唔明白我。有1分鐘呢，有月亮同埋個心。我好開心，好似春天咁。我唱歌，個月同我一齊唱。我跳舞呢，我一個人跳舞。我哋冇有酒啊，我哋都開心。但我哋飲酒啊，我哋周圍跑步，周圍開心。我哋一齊，成日一齊都個個。我哋會成日喺個地球周圍走。喺個星咧，喺個天，我哋會有一日咧又見返。And the poem is called Drinking Alone Beneath the Moon. The way I translated it in the Cantonese, and I had to do it because it felt right, I changed it to Drinking Alone with the Moon, which is kind of paradoxical. But the proper title is Drinking Alone Beneath the Moon. Among the blossoms, a single jar of wine. No one else here. I ladle it out myself. Raising my cup, I toast the bright moon. And facing my shadow makes friends 3. Though moon has never understood wine, and shadow only trails along behind me. Kindred a moment with moon and shadow, I found the joy that must infuse spring. I sing and moon rocks back and forth. I dance and shadow tumbles into pieces. Sober, we're together and happy. Drunk, we scatter away in our own little directions. Intimate forever, we'll wander carefree and meet again in star river distances. Okay, thank you. The next poem is called Dreaming of Here, and it's actually by one of my favorite Asian Canadian poets, Liang Li. So let me just try to. Okay, Dreaming of Here. Ivy ties the cellar door in autumn. In summer, morning glory wraps the ribs of a mouse. Love binds me to one whose hair I found in my mouth, whose sleeping head I kiss, wondering, is it death? Beauty, this dark star spreading in every direction from the crown of her head. My love's hair is autumn hair. There the sun ripens. My fingers harvest the dark vegetable of her body. In the morning, I remove it from my tongue and sleep again. Hair spills through my dream, sprouts from my stomach, thickens my heart, and tangles from the brain. Here ties the tongue dumb. Here ascends the tree of my childhood, the willow I climbed, one bare foot and hand at a time, feeling the knuckles on the gnarled tree, hearing my father plead from his window, don't fall! In my dream, I fly past summers and moths to the thistle caught in my mother's hair, the purple one I touched and bled for, to myself at 3, sleeping beside her, waking with her hair in my mouth. Along a slippery twine of her black hair, my mother ties kazoo knots for me, fish and lion heads, chrysanthemum buds, the heads of Chinamen, black-haired and frowning. Li En, my brother, frowns when he sleeps. I push back his hair, stroke his brow. His hairline is like our father's, 3 peaks pointing down. What sprouts from the body and touches the body? What filters sunlight and drinks moonlight? Where have I misplaced my heart? What stops wheels and great machines? What tangles in the bow and snaps the loom? Out of the grave, my father's hair burst. A strand pierces my left soul, shoots up bone, past ribs, to the broken heart it stitches, then down, swirling in the stomach, in the groin, and down through the right foot. What binds me to this earth? What remembers the dead and grows towards them? I'm tired of thinking. I long to taste the world with a kiss. I long to fly into here with kisses and weeping, remembering an afternoon when, kissing my sleeping father, I saw for the first time, behind the thick swirl of his black hair, the mole of wisdom, a lone planet spinning slowly. Sometimes my love is melancholy and I hold her head in my hands. Sometimes I recall our hair grows after death. Then I must grab handfuls of her hair and I tell you there are apples, walnuts, ships sailing, ships docking, and men taking off their boots, their hearts breaking, not knowing which they loved more, the water or their woman's hair, sprouting from the head, rushing toward the feet. Lee Young Lee. I have one more. It's actually something that just inspired me on the way here, by Langston Hughes. Not Asian American, but this poem is distinctly American. I too, Langston Hughes. I too sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes. But I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow, I'll be at the table when company comes. Nobody will dare say to me, eat in the kitchen. Then, besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I, too, am America. All right, thank you all.
And up next, our musical guest, Viaja Sandor. Vijaya Sandor.
So my name is Vijaya Sundaram. I am the former poet laureate of Medford, Massachusetts. My laureateship ended this summer and I handed it off to Max Heinig, a fine poet. I hope you hear him sometime. Philip was kind enough to ask me to sing, which surprised me because I didn't know he knew that I sang and played guitar. So that's my other life before I did poetry. I'm a singer-songwriter. The last time I performed my own songs, I think it was in the 2000s, early 2000s. So bear with me when I found singing this. This song was called Untitled Love Song, and I wrote it in 1994. If I were with you, my love, I'd close my eyes and wake up in another world. If somehow we could melt away, I'd turn to air and come to you as quiet rain. Quiet rain. 'Cause I love you. Seems like a silly thing to say. Yes, I love you. Just as children love to play. To play. 'But I found That's my song from 1994. Which I couldn't figure out what I couldn't figure out what to call it, so I called it Untitled, which makes it its title, so it's contradiction in terms. Another song I wrote around that time. This is a song about learning, and I'm a teacher. I teach at Vancouver Community College and Associate Professor in English. But before that, I was a public school teacher. And before that, I hated school. When I was a kid, I hated school. I liked to climb trees like Maria von Trapp in Sound of Music, and I'd scrape my knees, and I refused to sit in one place. I was the kid who hated to sit in the school. And I was also the most talkative child in class. And in India, I went to a convent school, and so we had all these, if we had nursery school, lower KG, kindergarten, upper KG, and then first grade. In first grade, or lower, upper KG, they gave us rankings. I had 35 children in class, and I was bottom of the class. I was number 35 among 35 kids because I refused to learn to read. And now I teach English literature. I love reading. Somewhere after that grade, my mom said, no child of mine is going to be bottom of the class. She gave me a couple of tight slaps, sat me down, and said, you're going to learn to read. And I don't know whether she taught me, because in the end, teachers don't act. You can teach, but someone has to learn. And that's a completely different process from the process of teaching. You can say, oh, I taught you, but you're so great. No, actually the person learned, and that's, whatever. So when my mom sat with me, she's my first teacher, and I'll always honor her, because she doesn't speak English, but she taught me how to read. Or I learned how to read when she sat down with me, one of those two things. I cracked the code, and between the age of 6 and 10, I suddenly began to read everything. I read the complete works of Oscar Wilde at age 10, many works of William Shakespeare before that age, and all by myself. There were no teachers. I was just like, what is this? This is magic. So the written word suddenly opened itself to me, and I was drowning in words, and ever since. And so my favorite thing to do is to actually read the dictionary. It's my favorite thing. I was a weird kid. I didn't go to parties. I liked reading. That was my thing, my jam. So this is called the learning song. And by the way, is the guitar mic balance okay? Yeah. Okay. She beat me once when I was young. I was so afraid to learn. My head felt fit to burst, and then I didn't know where to turn. Hated symbols, hated words. I curled into a ball. I dreamed of dragons, monsters too. Felt I was 1 foot tall. How did I climb through all that mess? I really don't know how. Still feel afraid, I must confess, though I'm quite alright now. But now and then the terror strikes, confusion knocks me down. My eyes go blind, my tongue curls up, my head spins round and round. How can I tell you how it feels? It's a nightmare straight from hell. Oh, take me back to school again, I promise I'll do well. I promise you I'll learn so quick, 'cause I am older now. My brain is fine, the world is mine, I'll make it through somehow. I'll learn my math, recite my rhymes, draw parallelograms. I'll quote from Keats, know what it means, I'll make me what I am. And then I'll change the world around, I'll save the planet Earth. I'll teach you what I learned in pain, help you learn it all in mirth. And you can tell me how it feels, it's a song of innocence. And see the world in a brand new light through a fabulous new lens. We'll sing a song exultantly, we'll dance our story out. We'll draw our names upon the stars and clap our hands and shout. Dum, 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 dum. Dum, 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 and so on and so forth. Thank you. Is that it, or do I do one more? One more? Okay. I was going to play a song that I didn't write. It's a Spanish song. It's from Cuba, from the sort of like the Buena Vista Social Club kind of mood to it. Who speaks Spanish here? Anyone? Okay, so please don't mock my Spanish because I'm doing it from a recording. But I hope you will hear what I hope to convey. I had someone who was from Puerto Rico translate the song for me, so I know what it means. But she didn't know some of the words because she said Cuban Spanish is different from Puerto Rican Spanish. Anyway, here it is. Si el amor hace sentir hondos dolores y condena a vivir entre miserias, yo te diera mi bien por tus amores, hasta la sangre que hierve en mis arterias, hasta la sangre que hierve en mis arterias. Si el amor hace sentir hondos dolores y condena a vivir entre miserias, yo te diera mi bien por tus amores, hasta la sangre que hierve en mis arterias, hasta la sangre que hierve en mis arterias. Si el surtidor de místicos pesares que hacia el hombre arrastrar largas cadenas, yo te juro arrastrarlas por los mares infinitos y negros de mis penas, infinitos y negros de mis penas. Si el amor hace sentir hondos dolores y condena a vivir entre miserias, yo te diera mi bien por tus amores, hasta la sangre que hierve en mis arterias, hasta la sangre que hierve en mis arterias, hasta la sangre que hierve en mis arterias. And that's it. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think I mispronounced a couple of words that came out. But anyway, so that's it, unless you want more. All right. I'm done. Thank you so much for having me.
And up next, representing the Italian voice, Miriam O'Neill.
Hi. And I may mispronounce one or two words. I do a lot of translation, but I don't get to speak Italian that much. So I have 2 poems for you. The first one I'll read in Italian and then in English. And it's by a woman named Luciana Notari. And she was born in 1944 in Terni, which is in the southern part of Umbria. And she was a second-wave feminist before there was second-wave feminism. And she wrote a lot, or writes still a lot, about the word itself and the power of the word. And this poem that I'm reading from her collection is called Scarto. Sullo scarto incolmabile di voci e desideri distampano le orme scendendo a tratti al centro della strada e gli occhi oltrepassano la folla attratti da una luce di segreta origine ma forte. Quello scarto incolmabile e feroce che rende me pietosa madre, del vero, del seme, del pelo elettrico di tutti gli animali, di piuma in plume, che nasce gia violata. La parola nuota con fatica, trasporta la terra, le scorie, le piccole le riplasma, ricompene, la tenta stringere in mano per fissare. La forma quasi piena, carente di sublime. Scarto has many, the noun scarto has many different meanings. Some people call it the margin. Some people call it the way I translated it as, this is my translation, I call it edge. Edge. On the unbridgeable edge between voices and desires, footprints distend in the middle of the road, while the eyes stare beyond the crowd, attracted by a light from somewhere secret but strong. That wild, unbridgeable gap makes me compassionate mother of the tree and of the seed, of the electric coat of all animals, of unfledged feather already broken at birth. The word struggles to swim, carries the dregs to shore, small traces of cloud shadow. It smells, reshapes, recomposes them, holds them carefully, the form almost fixed, but lacking the sublime. And the second poem I'm going to read for you, it will be out in the magazine Lily Poetry Review I think in January. And it plays with the syntax of Italian. In Italian, you'll hear, I'm playing with the possessive form. So some of it's in English and some of it's in Italian. And it's called In Possession of Family. All that spring and summer, you kept notes. This is what he said, what he did not say, what the doctors said about him, how his feet beneath the sheet that last morning moved. In between practicing translation, you spent your ink to record his dying. In Italian, possessive nouns of place use articles. La mia casa, la mia stanza, my house, the my room. Though in English we don't say the. But in possession of family, we say mio fratello, my brother. No article of indication, just mine. The bag of his papers in your guest room tell fairy tales, untruths. C'era una volta, once upon a time. Forms half filled out. How often do you drink alcohol? Only on weekends. Solo mie fine settimana. And one day you wrote, his dying has sockets and keys, ways to unlock my heart, if I can stand it. As if facing the door weren't hard enough. Forza means strength. Ho così poca forza, I have such little strength. The R rolls on the tongue and the Z stops the rolling. He liked to say, comme ci, comme ça, as if saying something bluesy and romantic. And though really it is gibberish, you knew he meant it comes, it goes, this life. Or more to the point, you lose again. Last night, so many nights later, you heard his voice inside your sister's voice as she wept. The way you heard mountain snow melt, gushing in the Trevi, as water rained on itself, a voice all waters share, submerged, subsumed, or flowing freely, his baritone inside her soprano. Thank you.
And up next, representing the Russian voice, Amy Woodward.
Thank you. It was a great pleasure to be here listening to all these beautiful voices. And although I'm representing the Russian voice, I'm going to start by saying Slava Ukraini. Russian is not my mother tongue. I adopted it through study some 50 years ago out of love for its literature, and then mostly lost it through neglect. But in view of what's happened to our government in the last 10 months, I wanted to share a taste of the work of the great Soviet-era poet Anna Akhmatova, specifically her masterpiece about enduring life in a police state, Requiem. It's a very long poem, so obviously I won't be reading it all. She composed it in bits and pieces over the years of Stalin's reign of terror, and it could not be published for political reasons until long afterwards. It was dangerous even to have it in manuscript form, so she would gather with small groups of trusted friends, giving each a few lines to memorize and then burn. When she began it, her husband, a fellow poet, had already been summarily executed for an alleged plot against the state. Their son would later be arrested repeatedly for the crime of being his father's son. The poem tells of Akhmatova's personal suffering from the state's actions against her loved ones, but speaks more generally to the role of the poet in a totalitarian state. To witness, share in, and record the people's suffering at the hands of the state She undertakes to channel the collective voice of the throngs of women with whom she gathered daily outside the walls of the massive prison in Leningrad, where their loved ones, her son among them, were being held in hopes of getting news or getting the guards to take in packages of food or other comforts. It starts with a brief prose passage setting the scene, where she was in the terrible years of the Yezhov terror, one of Stalin's great purges. I spent 17 months waiting in line outside the prison in Leningrad. One day, someone in the crowd identified me. Standing behind me was a woman with lips blue from the cold, who had, of course, never heard me called by name before. Now she started out of the torpor common to us all and asked me in a whisper. Everyone whispered there, "Can you describe this?" And I said, "I can." And something like a smile passed fleetingly over what had once been her face. So that's how she got her commission. And then I'll read the introductory passage, first in Russian and then in English, translations are by Stanley Kunitz. They're pretty good. Перед этим горем гнутся горы, не течет великая река, но крепкие тюремные заборы, а за ними каторжные норы и смертельная тоска. Для кого-то веет ветер свежий, для кого-то нежится закат. Мы не знаем, мы повсюду те же. Слышим лишь ключей постели скрежет, да шаги тяжелые солдат. Поднимались, как к обедной ране, по столице одичали шли. Там встречались мертвых без дыхания, солнце ниже и неба тумане. А надежда все поет вдали. Приговор, и сразу слезы линут. От всех уже отделано. Словно с болью жизни сердце вынут, словно гроб навзничь опрокинут, но идет, шатается одна. Где теперь невольные подруги двух моих осатанелых лет? Что им чудится в сибирской вьюге, что мерещится им в лунном круге? Им я шлю прощальный свой привет. Translation. Such grief might make the mountains stoop, reverse the waters where they flow, but cannot burst these ponderous bolts that block us from the prison cells crowded with mortal woe. For some the wind can freshly blow, for some the sunlight fade at ease, but we made partners in our dread, hear but the grating of the keys and heavy-booted soldiers' tread. As if for early mass we rose, and each day walked the wilderness, trudging through silent street and square to congregate thus live and dead. The sun declined, the Neva river blurred, and hope sang always from afar. Whose sentence is decreed? That moan shows one distinguished from the rest, as if they'd knocked her to the ground and wrenched the heart out of her breast. Then let her go, reeling alone. Where are they now, my nameless friends, from those 2 years I spent in hell? What specters mock them now, amid the fury of Siberian snows, or in the blighted circle of the moon? To them I cry, hail and farewell. The middle sections are mostly personal about the secret police coming for her son at night. Anyway, I'll just read one little short passage from that middle section that I particularly like. Тихо льется тихий дом, желтый месяц входит в дом, ходит в шапке на брикьен, видит желтый месяц тень. Эта женщина больна, эта женщина одна. Муж в могиле, сын в тюрьме, помолитесь обо мне. Quietly flows the river dawn. Into my house slips the yellow moon. It leaps the sill with its cap askew and balks at a shadow, that yellow moon. This woman is sick to her marrow bone. This woman is utterly alone. Husband in the grave, son away in prison, pray for me, pray, pray. And the concluding section goes back to the experience of the collective. She and her fellow waiters outside the prison. Опять ко мне не приблизился час. Я вижу вас, слышу, я чувствую вас. Remembrance hour returns with the turning year. I see, I hear, I touch you drawing near. И ту, что и бада окна доверили, и ту, что родими не топчет земля, the one we tried to help to the sentry's booth, and who no longer walks this precious earth. И ту, что красивый тряхнул головой, сказала, сюда прихожу как домой. And that one who would toss her pretty mane and say, just like coming home again. Хотелось бы всех поименно назвать, да отняли список и негде узнать. I want to name the names of all that host, but they snatched up the list, and now it's lost. Для них соткала я широкий покров из бедных уникших подслушанных слов. I've woven them a garment that's prepared out of poor words, those I overheard. О них вспоминаю всегда и везде, о них не забуду и в новой беде. I will hold fast to every word and glance all my days, even in new mischance. И если зажмут мой измученный рот, которым кричит стомальонный народ, and if a gag should blind my tortured mouth, through which 100 million people shout, пусть также они понимают меня в канун моего поминального дня. Then let them pray for me as I do pray for them this eve of my Remembrance Day. А если когда-нибудь в этой стране воздвигнут, задумают памятник мне. And if my country ever should assent to casting in my name a monument, согласен я на это торжество, но только с условием не ставить его ни около моря, где я родилась, последнее с морем разорванность, ни в царском саду у заветного пня, где тень безутешно ищет меня. I should be proud to have my memory graced, but only if the monument be placed not near the sea on which my eyes first opened. My last link with the sea has long been broken, nor in the Tsar's garden near the sacred stump where a grieved shadow haunts my body's warmth. As здесь, где стояла я 300 часов, и где для меня не открыли засов, but here, where I endured 300 hours in line before the implacable iron bars. Затем, что и бессмертие, блаженной боюсь забыть громыхание черных мороз, because even in blissful death I fear to lose the clangor of the black mariahs. Забыть, как постылая хлопала дверь, и была старуха, как раненый зверь. To lose the banging of that odious gate, and the old crone howling like a wounded beast. И пусть симпатичный и бронзовый век, как слезы струится тающий снег. And from my motionless bronze-lidded sockets may the melting snow like teardrops slowly trickle. И голубь тюремный пусть гулит вдали, и тихо идут по Неве корабли. And a prison dove coo somewhere over and over as the ship sails softly down the flowing Neva.
And representing the Ukrainian voice, Zavinia Orlovsky. How do you?
Perfect.
Oh.
Thank you. You pronounced so beautifully. Thank you.
Thank you.
Heroin Slava. I'm going to read a couple of poems by the Ukrainian poet Helena Kruk, who's a Western Ukrainian poet who has been gaining a lot of international recognition and is now considered one of the most powerful contemporary poets in Ukraine. And I'm going to read the first poem in Ukrainian and then in English, and the second poem solely in English. What I wanted to say about this poem is it does sort of, it begins a conversation with Pascal's notion that in all of us we have a God-sized hole in our souls that can only be filled with God. And then in her poem, she prefers to look at it through the more human lens of love, for example. So, чорна діра. Любов залишає у серці жінки діру з розміром з чоловіком. Спершу мріяти, потім міряти, применшувати, прибільшувати, не договоряти, триматися подалі від краю. Боже, не слухай жінку закохану, жінку розчаровану, жінку покинуту. Жодної з них не слухай. Вони самі не розуміють, що просять. Любов залишає у серці жінку діру розміром з іншу жінку, заючу, проконечну лакуну, якої нічим не закласти, антиматерію, вибухову хвилю, молитву, пропонство, Боже, не проходь мимо. Любов залишає у серці жінки діру розміром з Бога. Black hole. Love leaves a hole in a woman's heart the size of a man. Dream first, then measure, minimize, exaggerate, understate, stay far from the edge. God, don't listen to the woman in love, the disappointed woman, the abandoned woman. Don't listen to any of them. They themselves don't understand what they're asking. Love leaves a hole in the woman's heart the size of another woman. A gaping void, a lacuna that cannot be sealed, antimatter, a blast wave, a prayer for revenge. God, don't walk on. Love leaves a hole in the woman's heart the size of God.
Wow. Wow.
And continuing on the love subject, the only thing that you need to know in advance, in case you don't, there's a reference to Occam's razor, and this refers to the 14th century Friar William of Occam, who says that if you have two competing ideas that are trying to explain the same phenomenon, just go with the easier one. And love is outside of reason, so don't bother with that. And this poem is called Free Fall in Love. With you, I always want more than the body allows. Setting, the sun elongates our shadows, lays them on top of each other, mixes them into one. And there's no telling where mine ends and the one that is you begins. Getting closer than thought possible, I assume the world will last forever. To love is to live a little outside of yourself, to walk along the edge of yourself, cut yourself off with Occam's razor, without fear of falling. You see, love, I'm not holding on. I'm releasing my hands. There are so many souls in the air that even an apple has nowhere to fall. I'll close with one of my own poems because I figured it really addresses indirectly diversity, in this case not, and it's my response poem to the 119th Congress, One Big Beautiful Act, that is hardly beautiful, and you can replace any word you want instead of beautiful, for its exclusionary framework and prescribed order. So this is called Noah's Blunder. A voice said 2 by 2, but the goat leaned toward the snake. The zebra insisted beauty was enough, bi-colored, bi-hearted. Birds swarmed into a tempest of refusals. The octopus tried to hide that he'd already done the dirty deed and was as good as dead. The amorous redback spider, too, barely escaped, half-eaten, dragging 4 of his legs. Centaurs demanded 4 births, mermaids 2 oceans, Icarus a sky with no ceiling. The rain came, but Noah clung to his blueprint. His door closed against everything unpaired, everything winged, everything wild.
And our penultimate poet, representing the French voice, Mario Malvet.
Good afternoon. My name is Mario Malvet. I'm going to read 2 French poems, 2 poems in French, and also those poems are translated in English as well. There's a Haitian poet, critic, and literature teacher who was stabbed to death 2 days ago. He was living in Philadelphia for the past 2 years, and he was going to work at 7:30 a.m. He was working in a restaurant. A mentally disturbed person just stabbed him to death. The thing is, many of us poets, it's as if we don't really matter, people don't know about us, until something tragic happened. So now people are talking about him. His name is Charles Laurent Jr. So I'm reading those poems as a tribute to him. The first one is le premier poème, c'est Trop plein. Trop plein. Au prince qui penche et balance sous le poids des pieds. Que le pied, trop le pied. Des gens qui viennent d'ailleurs. Des fils de Jean Rabel et du Mont Saint-Nicolas, qui délaissent la terre, en quête du jet rapide de la ville. Les maisons se dressent dans le lit des ravines, murs effondrés dans les grandes pluies, jus de béton dans les eaux. Les cercueils sous les nuages gris, les canaux, quels canaux, les égouts, quels égouts. Mais la marche continue dans les rues poussiéreuses de la cité des princes, en quête de l'or enterré sous le sable des trottoirs. Que de temps perdu. La masse grise du cerveau s'engloutit dans la tente des gratte-ciel. Les mêmes silhouettes se déhanchent du matin au soir. Les mêmes demoiselles à la démarche lascive exigent le regard. Les idées mornées des intellectuels de fortune, des savants centonels assis sur des capots de voiture. Des jeunes gens qui ne trouvent rien à faire. mais de poursuivre l'extase des jeux insolites, mais de succomber à l'attrait de la chair, panacée des jours d'ennui, exutoire des longues heures monotones des nuits chaudes. Le repas des temps creux se sert en vagues, carnaval de mauve et gris, marée de chauves-souris, zigzag des secondes cendres, fouillis des sachets de plastique, papier noirci debout, tendons de poulet au cou tordu pour le repas du dimanche. Le fatras qui nous hante, la fumée qui danse dans sa robe violette, senteur nauséabonde de la chair gâtée, l'enfant qui tourne son cercle autour du tas. Ceux qui ont vécu toute leur vie dans cette vie de rue défoncée iront tout droit au paradis. Ceux qui ont bu la coupe amère des jours sans but, l'hasard des temps modernes, reposeront à coup sûr sur le sein d'Abraham. Overflow. Port-au-Prince, that tilts and sways under the weight of feet. Nothing but feet, too many feet. People that come from elsewhere, sons of Jarabel and Mort Saint Nicolas, that abandon the land in quest of the fast pace of the city. Houses crop up in the bed of ravines. Walls wash away under heavy rains. Concrete juice in the waters. Coffins are under the gray clouds. The camels, what camels? The sewage, what sewage? But the march continues in the dusty streets of the city of princes, in the quest for gold buried under the sand of the sidewalks. So much time wasted. The gray mass of the brain engulfed in the expectation of skyscrapers. The same silhouettes sway their hips from morning till night. The same young women with lascivious demeanor demand to be noticed. Ideas dead-born of makeshift intellectuals, servants without shelter, seated on the hoods of cars. Young people who find nothing to do but to pursue the ecstasy of unusual games, but to succumb to attractions of the flesh. Then I say of days of boredom, outlet of long monotonous hours of hot nights. The meal of hollow times is served in a wave, carnival of purple and gray, tide of bats, zigzag, ash seconds, jumble of plastic bags, paper blackened with mud, chicken tendons with necks long for the Sunday meal, the garbage that haunts us, the smoke that dances in its violet robe, the jeering smell of rotten flesh, the child that drives his circle around the heap. Those who have lived their entire lives in this life of pothole roads will go straight to paradise. Those who have quaffed of the bitter cup, modern-day Lazarus, will surely rest on Abraham's chest. Thank you. Le second poème, c'est La tête chauve des mondes, c'est le titre de mon dernier recueil de poèmes. La tête chauve des mondes. Monde chauve campé autour des villes, rat au dos dégarni. Les racines empilées sous des feuilles de palmier s'allument, se raidissent, se noircissent en charbon de bois. Une langue de fumée peigne le pic des mornes, chuchotant le cri des terres desséchées. Que réserve la minute qui attend? Petits mille grillés qui donnent le roulis, murs debout, terre battue, toit de chaume, mangue verte bouillie pour dîner. 12 ans d'école, boulot évasif. Rêver de laisser cette île maudite, tenter sa chance sur une mer affamée. Yeux délavés des enfants qui ne savent pas encore qu'il n'y a rien à attendre. Paris impitoyable face aux défis d'un pays qui se dirige tout droit vers le précipice. La réalité est dure comme les cœurs des dirigeants. Les budgets, quel budget? Les dons, quels dons? Les projets, quels projets? Les rues défoncées s'étalent comme une grimace. Le pays, le chéri qu'on détruit comme des cons. Absence d'imagination pour fixer le réel, avec des yeux frais. Manque de courage pour dire non à la chicanerie. Croche au corps d'un appareil d'État. Vise de vision et de mission. Citoyen kleptomane. Lord du pays dans les banques de Suisse. Bald heads of mountains. Board mountains, camped around cities, rats with receding backs. Woods pile up on the palm fronds, ignite, harden, blacken into charcoal. A plume of smoke combs the mountain tops, whispering the cry of parched land. What does the waiting minute reserve? Grilled millet that causes sweating. Wall of mud and earth roof of straw. Green mangoes boiled for dinner. 12 years of evasive schoolwork, dreaming of leaving this God-forsaken island. Trying one's luck on a famished sea. Wash out eyes of children that know not yet that there is nothing to expect. Pitiful bet faced with the dare of a country that is headed straight for the precipice. The reality is hard, like the hearts of the leaders. The budgets, what budgets? The aid, what aid? The projects, what projects? Pothole streets spread like a grimace. The cherished country that we destroy like idiots. Lack of imagination to set reality with fresh eyes. Lack of courage to say no to the lingering kwashiorkor of an apparatus of the state. Vice of vision and of mission. Kleptomaniac citizen. The country's gold in Swiss banks. Thank you.
Consciousness is a matter of perspective. I have this perspective for my dashboard when I'm driving, and this perspective for reading. I have two poems to present. One is Dreams Anaphora, anaphora being, of course, the use of rhetorical repetition in a piece. And you'll figure out what's the repetition in this one rather quickly. Dreams Anaphora. Who wants to be the butt of objectifying wit that uses words like knives to poach others as if a species hunted down for a prize, or out of rage, or out of fear? Who wants to be at risk that much? Who wants to be just vulnerable enough? Like a chipmunk slouched over a handful of nuts, listening for noise, wings, footsteps, even slithers, watching for sudden shadows, a well-dug hole at her feet for the well-rehearsed disappear and pop back up, all's well. Who wants to be lost in the REM-scape self, like an owl standing in front of her shadow, dreaming of waking up like a hummingbird, shape-shifting through his quantum spaces?
Lovely.
Around maple, redbud, some oak, trees who too dream of wild rooting about their same plot. Who wants to be the dream of a line of self spooling out endlessly until enjambed, broken, like a kite string snapped, the thread recoiling as its dream of insight veers to a fractalized tree branch, fangs standing out thirsty, maybe to a strung out power line conducting its own dreams of possibility? Who wants to breathe at ease a dream of breath that does no harm to the ear it reaches? A breath that floats softly like a tufted milkweed seed that can fly high over the rooftops on the pleasure of a breeze before lilting down to root and grow up again.
Beautiful.
Now this one is a poem that I've read here before in 2019. It was written for the Voices of Diversity presentation that year, and I thought I'd read it again simply because the title fits one more time. And the title is Thoughts from Varied Backgrounds on November 1st, just after Halloween. Away from the backyard, the whole bird bath is stored in the garage where the coming months of snow and ice cannot fracture its ability to hold water. Like the old cracked bird bath leaning against the lichen-covered cedar fence, concrete waiting for a simple good night, good night, good night, good night. Good night, good night, says a voice I never heard of my German grandfather who came to America on a dream and carried his best friend's legs up the elevator from the mine collapse somewhere in Pennsylvania until the man demanded to hold his own legs. Sie sind mein. Sie sind mein, bitte. Sie sind mine. They're mine. They're mine, please. They're mine. And took them back and cradled them like small children and died a kind of hole. Voices stir and wash against my buried self, and then my conscious one, like the sea tide flowing under a harvest moon, up inlets and out across mud flats, lapping against my current tongue with dialects I cannot fathom. Good night from Poland, Dobranoc, and Lithuania, Davanaktis, and Belarusia, Dobranoc Bai, and Ireland, San, and Wales, nos da, and Scotland, ma Shinlib. All those great-great-grandparents traveled, married, had families, emigrated, and some came here. And here I am, ignorant of their tongues, and worried more about the voices I know every day, waking up 26,000 times, and each time using the new voice I find when I part my lips and speak. Tongues, lips, and vocal cords make words and songs. And I must listen more intently, more often, to know the ancient sounds that let my daily voices make sense, and to live aware enough to say good night, good nacht, dobranoc, labanactus, dobranoc bai, slan, nos da, ma shinlib. Good night.
And thank you everyone for joining us for our sixth Voices of Diversity. We will not have Everyone Has a Voice for November, but we will in December, and I hope you will join us again. Thank you.